Hello again, Oliver Knox here from the University of New England and Cotton Info's Technical Lead in Soil Health, and I want to talk to you right now about earthworms. Earthworms! Everyone goes, yeah, they're amazing. What are they amazing for? They're amazing for fishing. And you go, yep, that's pretty true. And some people still hang on to these beliefs that they're also amazing for our soils. Now, I'm going to have to burst your bubble here. They're not as great as you might think. There are a few things about earthworms that we really need to bear in mind when we think about our Australian production systems. The first of those is Australian. Australian production systems are not European, they're not North American. We're not in a high organic matter, high intensity rainfall environment most of the time. We have a very different system with very different soils, and we just don't get the same sort of numbers of earthworms as they do internationally. Have you ever gone out in the paddock and dug for worms? Do you ever find any? Well, rarely we do. Sometimes all we see is what's left of the channels that they leave behind. These are where they've burrowed into the soil and they've left these beautiful pores, these wonderful signs of their presence, but we don't always find the earthworms associated with it. Sometimes we might get lucky and we'll find the odd earthworm making its way through our soil. They don't have to be very big, but they're certainly there. Fascinating creatures, able to do some incredible things, but not always things that are hugely important to our soils or our cropping systems. When we do find earthworms in our paddock, the earthworms we find can also be the result of European introduction, particularly if you're in the southern growing areas of the cotton production regions. Down there, we still have an influence from European introduction of earthworms, and we have basically invasive earthworms. The difference between the two, Australian earthworms are rougher, so they don't feel quite as smooth and slimy on your hand, and you have generally more segments in front of the saddle than the European ones. We tend to classify earthworms into three different groups. The epigeic group, which live in the surface, they just feed on organic matter and they don't burrow. So they're not mixing, they're not causing that bioturbation that we think is so important. Many of these worms we might associate with composts or cow dungs and things like that, and they're great in those environments, but they're not actually going to change our soils. Then we have these worms that tend to bury into the surface. These are the ones that often leave a cast. These worms eat both organic matter and soil. Now those, where we have them, are involved in that wonderful mixing of the soils and everything else, but we just don't get them very often. And the final group, the anisic worms, these are the larger worms that will bury themselves down at depth, make huge great burrows, come to the surface, pick up organic matter and take it right down. They can actually be detrimental to some of our crop production because they can take water away from the root zone. So what should we do? Well, maybe in Australia we need to think about things that change our soil and our soil, the structure, differently. Maybe in Australia we need to think less about earthworms and perhaps encourage our looking at ants or termites, which in our environments are probably far more important in terms of that mixing of the soil, that porosity and structural change that these organisms make, and actually moving organic matter from the surface into the soils as well. So next time you're out and you see some earthworms in your paddock, it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's a lovely thing to see. But just be mindful and be realistic about what they actually mean to your system. And the answer is generally not a lot. That's earthworms.